My name is Yasmin Nagdi.
My name is Eve Joy.
My name's Claire Calvert. Getting your first pair of pointe shoes is an exciting experience. I think my first pair of shoes were size 2.5.
Each pair has a character. I call it character because it's very individual, and how I make my pointe shoes for myself is my job.
Everyone has their own routine to prepare their shoes. I have a layer of, it's like a sort of felty fabric material in the shoe. I just pull that out, creates a little bit of a lump in your foot, which can be really uncomfortable, so I just tear that out. Then I darn the ends of my pointe shoe because it helps not slip, and I think it looks really beautiful. It kind of extends the line of the foot.
I carry around a Stanley knife, scissors, general sewing stuff for if a ribbon or elastic comes off.
I personally like to know what I'm going to get when I step on stage, so I would tend to wear the pair of shoes during a ballet class before, so my foot has had a chance to feel what it is going to be like on stage.
It's actually really interesting to look at the shoe that comes out of production, that goes to the shoe room and is put in our pigeonhole, and what they actually look like once we've hacked them to pieces and made them into the shoe that we want them to be. The shoe definitely goes through quite a big process.
We have so many demands put on the dancers that if we didn't have the support of our shoes, we couldn't deliver to the high standard that we do.
This season I started to count how many pairs I wore already. It's about 20 pairs already. It's only been 2 months.
It's very important to have a shoe that really fits you well and works for you.
For us, pointe shoes are one of the most important things, because without pointe shoes, ballet don't exist.
A beautiful look into the life of the simple ballet pointe shoe. But bringing things back to you tonight, everybody, welcome back.
Yeah, lots of those pointe shoes in action tonight. Now, I don't think that anyone would argue with the claim that tonight's Ballet Duels is a feast for the eyes. The visual splendour of expensive gems was the starting point, but interpreting them for the stage fell to two people. Back in the 1960s, the Oscar-winning costume designer Karinska created the stunning costumes, and someone who was definitely not around in the 60s, the French set designer Jean-Marc Puissant.
And we are thrilled to have Jean-Marc joining us now. Welcome, Jean-Marc.
Thank you very much.
It's been such a pleasure getting to know you in the short moments that we've spent together this evening, and we are all in awe of your work here at the Royal Opera House. But with Jules, tell us, what is it that you made sure you wanted to deliver with the set design?
Jules is, first of all, a sense of occasion, a stunning evening with a wonderful theme that Balanchine, of course, translated so well with those gems. However, I think there's a lot more to Jules than meet the eyes, and particularly in the way that Balanchine quotes really superbly 3 wonderful periods of ballet history. And so, of course, is the first part with Emerald, which is the beginning of 20th century in France, romantic. And then, of course, we go to Broadway for Rubies. And then we finish in St. Petersburg with the Imperial Ballet. So I was keen to, keeping Jules an abstract dance piece, to also bring maybe a sense of context and to maybe hint at other things at other places, Paris, New York, St. Petersburg, and other eras as well.
Yeah,
so you're taking us on a worldwide travel.
Well, Balanchine does that very well for us, so it's yes.
Absolutely, and we said the other visual glories on stage are the costumes. Now, did they inspire your designs?
Very much so. This production was really centered around the Karinska costumes, and they are very strong statements and very strong choices. So I wanted to honor Karinska's costumes and also follow the leads that she drew for us, again, quoting very specific shapes of costumes that match what Balanchine was inspired by, which was Romanticism, Broadway, and the Imperial Ballet. So yes, those costumes were very central to this production here at the Royal Opera House.
I think everybody would agree that the synergy that you got with the costumes and the set looks absolutely perfect tonight.
You.
Are you going to stay with us?
Absolutely.
Please, will you? Okay, that's good. We've got plenty more questions that we want to ask Jean-Marc this evening. Before we do, let's have a closer look, though, at those wonderful outfits, shall we? Because during rehearsals, we snuck into the costume department here at the Royal Opera House to see how the costume supervisor, Alan Watkins, creates those incredible garments and then make sure that they fit each dancer like a glove.
So important.
Important, of course it is. First, with the help of first soloist Beatrice Stix-Brunel.
I think this is one of my favorite costumes.
Indeed, yeah.
Because the color is so particular, isn't it?
It's perfect.
It's not a regular green.
No, absolutely not. It's a difficult colour for us to get.
I feel really good in this. I think just...
I haven't done you up at the back. Can I just check the final...
Yeah, that's good.
The final bar? The costumes are the property of the Royal Opera House, but they are copied to the original designs by Karinska, which were made in 1967. The costume she created must have been very much alongside his inspiration for what he was going to create as a ballet. We recreated those costumes here in London under the supervision of a very talented woman from New York called Holly Hines. Emeralds is clearly influenced by the French Romantic style. So consequently, the woman's skirt shape is the skirt length we associate with Giselle, the romantic ballets of that period. Rubies is completely different. The skirts have gone. It's all about legs and arms. Almost Broadway tradition or Hollywood tradition, which I think has inspired it and which the costumes are there to reflect. And then finally, of course, in the diamond section, we're looking back to Russia, the Russia that Balanchine came from, and so did Barbara Karinska. The tutu shape is not the great big saucer plates that we got used to for most of the 20th century, but it's a softer, shorter, smaller thing, so you could fill the stage with many of these things without them all banging into each other. This is what we talked about last time, and I'm just wondering if that feels good, or we can go a little bit, tiny bit looser or tighter. I would allow 2 weeks per costume. All the embroidery on all the costumes is all done by hand. You would do a first fitting to make sure the body shape is right, and then from there you start to build the costume up, and the decoration, all that handwork will go on at the end when you're sure that the fit is done. So there's several fittings will be needed to get to that point.
I think the only thing that it feels like I have a bit of airflow.
We don't want that. We don't want airflow. No, right. The point about a ballet costume, in classical ballet particularly, is that they have to fit absolutely precisely, and no two bodies are the same. The dancers need to be supported by the costumes, to fit in the body, in the torso area, the length of it. Many of them are attached between the legs in order to provide a sort of virtual tension.
This is actually a really easy costume to dance in because it's so light, even though it has a lot of jewels on it. It really just moves with you. It's perfect. I think it's the ultimate feminine costume.
I love these costumes. I think they're absolutely wonderful. The jewels are not tiny, delicate little things that just twinkle away. They are really there. They're big jewels that register, that make the point. The title of the ballet, the subject, what we're looking at, and I enjoy that very much. And I enjoy the huge difference between them, the colour and the texture and the design.
Thank you to Alan and to Beatrice for taking us into the process of making those costumes. I think if there was one lesson I learned from that piece, we don't like drafty outfits, do we? It's not good. You'd know better than I would, but we don't like wind coming in all the wrong places.
No, it was wonderful there to have a glimpse into a place I know very well, a fitting room here at the Opera House. Now, set designer Jean-Marc is still with us. Thank you. Here. So it was nice to see there how much time is spent making sure that we can actually move in them and dance in them okay. Do you have to consider that when you're designing the set? You know, you don't want a dancer pirouetting into it. Do you know, is that a factor?
Yes, of course it's a factor. When we do a recreation of an existing ballet like Jules tonight, Balanchine gave us some very clear instruction of how the stage needs to be presented. Of course, the off-stage is very important too. Quite straightforward with Jules. It's pretty much wings on both sides, so it's not so tricky. It would be trickier if it was an opera or something a bit more involved with the scenery, yes.
Yeah. It's interesting because I imagine when you're doing a new production, you have lots of conversations with the choreographer about the sets, but obviously Balanchine isn't here, the costumes are already done. Do you work in a different way when designing when that happens?
Yes, it's a complete different process for a designer. It's much more forensic approach to what to create. The choreographer is not here, sadly, to speak with us, but that's when your team is even more important, and in this case, the amazing lighting designer, Jennifer Tipton. So the process goes with different people, but the collaboration is equally crucial. And of course, we can look at previous productions that were done of this ballet, and then gives us some hints and some ways. And then it's about creating as well. So not being too much of a slave to this.
Well, it's beautiful what you've created, you and all of the different teams that have come together to make the set and the costume and everything else. And I know you're so proud to have been part of the 50-year history of Jules. And for us, it's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you very much.
Jean-Marc,
thank you.
enjoy the next little bit. Go and get a drink. You deserve it. Go on. Go on.
Thank you.
Jean-Marc Poussin, thank you very much indeed. So the next part of our ballet fast approaches Rubies. The music is Igor Stravinsky's Capriccio for piano and orchestra, with the Royal Ballet's head of music, Rob Clark, as soloist. Now, this jazzy number was written back in 1929. It was one of the many scores by the Russian-born composer that Balanchine used in his ballets.
Now, rubies are, of course, emblems of passion, fiery red stones that are forged deep within the Earth's crust. They give rise to perhaps the most spectacular choreography of the evening, with incredible demands placed on the central partnership of principal dancers Sarah Lamb and Stephen McRae.
So it is time for Rubies, the second part of Balanchine's Jules, live from the Royal Opera House.
spectacular final moments there of Stravinsky's Capriccio, bringing to an end Rubies, the second part of Balanchine's Jewels.
I'm blown away.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely blown away. And especially from a guy's perspective, Stephen McRae, I mean, we know he is talented, but he really stands out tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, the technical virtuosity of that was incredible. Those the chaînés, we call them, so fast.
I'm learning tonight. I'm learning.
And it's so nice. I mean, a completely different style there to Emerald's, and you can really see Balanchine's own voice there. I mean, you see and recognise the classical vocabulary, but the arms are higher, the legs are getting higher, the hips are moving. It's his own style and his own voice that you see. I just want to be in New York.
Absolutely stunning. And also what I'm finding now is that you're not only clad in some marvellous jewels here, but we also know what your favourite is, ruby red
Well,
here.
you see, I only danced in emeralds and diamonds, so tonight I'm doing rubies for myself.
Representing a personal tribute there. Lovely, just lovely. There's an interval now. Join us again, though, shortly, because we're going to find out more about our next instalment in our season of ballets in cinemas.
And Darcy Bustle will be taking one of Balanchine's original ballerinas, Patricia Neary, on a very special shopping trip for some very expensive jewels. See you in a bit.